Hello. Friends, it's Saturday, August 15th, 2026. Well, round one did not pan out. Um, I made some noise, shook the cage, so to speak, but couldn't quite break out of the box and make a successful career change. So I took the defeat, stepped back, looked over everything, got the feelings out of the way. You can acknowledge a defeat, but I don't have to spend the rest of my life now dwelling on it. Took a step back, analyzed things, and I think I have a better idea now for something to try for round two. So we'll see. What I'm envisioning is, and I've started already, but something like building on what I've learned with crypto, but also expanding and just kind of adapting more with things. I think I want to look at agentic payments, where it's like an AI will pay for something. So crypto's definitely involved. I've heard it's one of those more futures things that's up and coming. So that's probably something better to pursue than, more of what didn't pan out with the smart contracts and things like that. So if you're not familiar, that's the stuff that runs on the blockchain. Kind of imagine like programs that run on the blockchain that you interact with. I don't think more of just that obviously matters. Something like that. I think it will build on what I know. I'd like to incorporate the Chainlink runtime environment with it. I think it's one of those where it's another aspect that hasn't been done as much, that's got potential. I don't know. I know what CRE is, but I haven't looked at that aspect of it. I think some demos and stuff have been made by the company, but it's one of those, I don't know much about it, but I can get caught up to speed basically in the weekend at this point, where, if nothing else from this 1.5 year try a career change into crypto, into tech, whatever, if nothing else, I learned a lot, and I now know how to learn, and especially magnified with AI. It's one of those, it's a tool that played a massive effect on disrupting the industry and a whole lot of other industries that you wanted to get into and made it a challenge to do what, on the other hand, be incredibly empowering and now help you learn, right? It's funny how, it's a I don't know. There is a grade to it all, I feel like. But it's amazing now how, in a weekend, really any concept that I wouldn't be as familiar with, I feel like I can very quickly get caught up to speed. Because once you learn how to make something and you understand how something is made, it's just like variations of the same thing in a way. And I would look at job postings back in the day, and you'd see all these terms and this and that, and now it's I don't know, you're like, I could probably take any of this subset of stuff and do some studying, a little trying out on a weekend, and pretty much know what I need to know to get going with this. I forgot what I was talking about. If nothing else, I learned a whole lot, and I think, I did my best a year and a half ago. It's all right, here's, going off of vibes and feelings and just kind of what you see, what seems to be happening in the world, in tech, with crypto, with this, with that, just the politics side of it. some things were right, some not so much. But now, and the other aspect is like, your eyes are now open and you know more and you kind of know more what to look for also. So that's another thing. But yeah, I think, I could get caught up in, just with AI, it was pretty good about like, hey, so if you're going to try this, like look at this demo, look at that demo, this will give you like stuff to build off of. But so the thing is, all right, so like you're incorporating an AI agent, like with crypto paying for something. But I figure, all right, well, before I do that, I would probably want to make something that an AI might want to pay for, where even if it's not like the best, like give that a little more substance. So this is where I am just... I'd like to incorporate Palantir Foundry for this and kind of its strengths, where I can take data, put it into an ontology, make it make sense, whatever it's going to do with like its like internal AI thing. So it's like, well, maybe the AI with Chainlink CRE can make a call to like a thing I make. It can do some kind of an analysis and then bring it back, and it's like it'll pay for something that had a little more work put into it, if that makes sense. And so this way it's like just trying to put as much quality into each aspect and combine these different systems together into something kind of cohesive, and maybe is not done as much. Just try to be on the lookout for what can I build, from what I've learned, what can I build on top of, what kind of interests me, and just where you kind of see the potential of certain platforms of how do I incorporate that. And in general, just give yourself a niche, a unique edge. Just try to now, before something becomes oversaturated, get in on trying to do something, if that makes sense, where I do have a better view on things now. Is it a good idea? Is it going to work? Who knows? Maybe not. And really, it doesn't matter, because it's at least an idea that I would say I've got a lot better reasoning on now. And, I think there's some potential, and it's better than sitting and doing absolutely nothing and just giving up, or like, oh, I'm not sure, I'll do nothing, I'll do this. It's like, all right, this didn't quite pan out. I've got some of these other interests. I see that this can be used for that. Like maybe there's some kind of a potential to put this together into an interesting little system. Maybe the wheels are going to completely fall off of this thing, and it doesn't matter. It's an idea that's pretty good, that's now going to be a bit step up from what I was doing, and it will keep me learning, keep me moving forward, and if all this new route, if all of this completely fails again, well, I would say the worst thing from it is, again, if I learn from this first try, I suspect I'm going to learn a whole lot from, this second attempt with things. So we'll take a look. So, hey, I have learned my lesson for I'm not sure what to do, blah, blah, blah. And so you end up doing nothing, right? And all that time goes by that you could have at least been working on something and found out, well, you tried something and maybe that didn't work out, or you didn't like it, but it was better than sitting and wondering and I don't know and what should I do. Really, it's just, you just got to do your best to decide on something and go out and try. And I feel like, the more stuff you go out and try, and like whatever failures you get out the way, you learn from that until hopefully you do the thing that clicks and works out. So, yeah, it was a little rough, but yeah, I got, the soft pivot and adaptation was not the most pleasant, but I think this will be good. I'm kind of looking forward to broadening the horizons a little bit. Like you can still incorporate stuff that I've learned. I mean, I think what I'd like to do is there's these. Essentially, you can get like the history of a blockchain wallet. I mean, it's a whole big mess of data from some of these like uh let's say RPC providers. It's just imagine they provide a bunch of like infrastructure for interacting with stuff. We don't need to get into the weeds of it, but yeah, some of these they provide these like special calls where it's like you can get the history. I mean, the whole point, and it's kind of some people agree with it, some with it not, but the whole idea with some of these blockchains was that these transactions are visible for everyone, which, I guess that's good and bad, as it's meant to be very open. Well, also I think there are like blockchains and stuff that will hide transactions. Anyway, the point is you get a return of all of these transactions, and I figure, all right, I mean, it's a big blob of data. So it seems perfect to put into some enterprise system like Palantir Foundry and turn it into like objects and connections and links, and give it you give it a meaning, and like use its internal AIP system. I think it's artificial intelligence platform to kind of analyze and maybe like get a risk score of a wallet. So maybe somebody would like use the AI to pay for, hey, so this wallet, what's like the risk score of it? So, I mean, that interesting, that exciting? I mean, maybe not. Maybe it has no use at all, but I figure it's something a little more interesting than just, I don't know, pay for the weather, have the AI call the weather channel and, servers with the API and what's the weather where I'm at. I feel like that's a little less interesting, So it's kind of like you put some substance into these various pieces, and hopefully it will be more than the sum of its parts and can kind of punch above its weight, where like what you tried to put together, I mean, it's obviously you're gonna have to learn a lot now in like a different direction, but it gives it a little more weight, I feel like, than just cheapening out. So yeah, I think so what I did was went back to my initial project where I had started with this. I think having that time away and just kind of here and there, just like looking at some YouTube clips, blah blah, like I somewhat like understood the like Foundry, like Palantir Foundry platform more, and just like how this stuff is made. But yeah, I also had the like, when you come back to a project and you haven't looked at it for a while and now you're going to really focus on this, it was like this, what am I doing? What is this? Because it's like this combination of, you can build stuff where there's like no code, it's like dragging and dropping, blah blah, this you can put it together without any code, and there's, I think, this low code option where it's like here and there, where it's like a thing that needs a little more power than just like some simple actions. You can write little code for functions, and then I think they've really started to invest in the like full code, like here's a whole lot of this where it's like purely just code, and you'll put it on there like your store, which can then turn in, it's whatever. It's kind of like an app of equivalent that you can create in code versus like dragging and dropping and just kind of building it out visually. I'm probably not explaining it well, but I think you get the idea of, but it's called Super Repo, which came out very recently, and I just saw the announcement about it, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of interested in what this is. a large part of this second attempt now is to have to be a bit more strategic and really try to think further ahead and just be, put more thought into things, not just, oh, I'll just go follow an established path. I mean, after a little sad moments, I sat down and like finished the rest of the tutorial on their like platform, and then did like the very first baseline certification pass. But it's like, okay, I mean, got that out of the way, but I don't need to be credential seeking and certification seeking. Like, this was good, this was a little thing, got me like reoriented with the platform again, but I don't need to be studying endlessly now, because that's, I don't need to. I'm not trying to become the best studier, right? The goal is that you learn enough that you can go make stuff that you can now have for like on a portfolio that shows that yes, you can go out and build things that kind of look like real systems, right? Not, I think like any studying, any certifications are like that small little layer on top. So I'm just trying to do this very carefully. I think it's raining right now, but it's not too bad. But yeah, so I just kind of thought, part of this is having to be strategic and tactical, and also like, all right, so here's this thing they've released. So like the Palantir Foundry Super Repo. Well, all of this is like, it's very beta, very early. A lot of stuff is not available, but also I'm like, all right, well, that seems like a good time to start learning how this works, how you set it up, how it translates to their like full like Foundry platform. I mean, I'm continually amazed how they give you a free developer license, and it doesn't do all the enterprise stuff, but it's incredibly generous for like learning. Like a lot of the features you can just go use. So like, why would you not? Especially a lot of their AI stuff, which I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be leaning very heavily into that. But I figured, all right, I saw the announcement for the Super Repo. I mean, maybe it might be worth just stopping and, like a little side quest, a little mini side quest. Why don't I just stop and check this out? So like, there's some documentation, not a whole lot, but thankfully with Grok, it's been very good where like some of the stuff it gets wrong, but it can like really scour their documentation, look through the code, and just give you a rough idea of what to try to set this up. Where, I mean, we don't need to get into the technical details. I like figure out, all right, how do I install this on my computer? How do I get like a boilerplate project set up? They've got like a little tutorial, not the most interesting to go through, went through that. Just really had AI do like a in-depth, all right, read through the tutorial, through the docs they have, through the code, like go to their documentation page, which is just like so much stuff, like find out what I need to know, the important stuff, and create me study guides. And like just read through those, like read through some of the like, all right, I made a couple of posts about it too, of like, hey, I got this set up on my computer, excited to learn. And it's like got a surprising amount of views on some of the posts, which I think again it like ties back to, well, if this thing is early and they flat out tell you in their docs where like this is going to be the de way, where if you're using this platform with like the full, you want to just like code everything more or less, this is going to be where the platform is going with this Super Repo. I mean, to me that just said well, hold on, before I tell you what it said to me, I better close the windows. But yeah, all right, so if this thing is early, right, and there's not much to it yet, again, it seems like the perfect time to start learning this now, make some posts. You kind of start putting your name out there a little early while something is early. So it's like little stuff like that that I'm picking up on. Like, yeah, you probably should get in on this now, even if there's not the most interesting stuff to it now. So did that, great. But hey, what if we turn this into a little project? So did some more brainstorming with Grok, came up with something, a little investigation desk, if you will. I mean, not the most interesting, very limited, but it almost doesn't matter because it's like, again, it's like the amount of stuff. I think I spent like the last couple of days where just doing some in-depth studying of like, all right, what are some best practices for the design with these ontologies, so that you really, like, how do I make an AI agent skill, so if it's going to be building stuff out for me, like, hey, go to their official docs, read this, create like the best practices, so in the future you know how to do this the best way. Just kind of some really downright kind of brain melting, where you're like, man, like at the end of the day yesterday, it's like, man, my head just kind of hurts, but I'm starting to get it. And yeah, you can kind of see where like the mistakes the AI made, and just like some of the concepts that like it's not, as I said, it's in a beta, it's not ready. It's not the most interesting for what it can do, but it doesn't matter. It's like the core idea of what it's doing, where it's going, what you can do, the other stuff that they're going to add on to it. Like, I'm now much more familiar. And hey, like, you get some posts out there, you start getting some views, some connections on LinkedIn, whatever. I mean, that's I figure that's really like little stuff like that got to take advantage of, while stuff is early. And so did that. I just need to go over some last things, probably finish up this project, put it on my GitHub as a portfolio, maybe make a small little video, make all the acknowledgments that it's not the most exciting. And yeah, I will then get back to my other project, but I think it's one of those I will be very actively developing and pursuing that skill building as they update the platform. So not to belabor the point, but I think you get what I mean, where if you're kind of looking in a direction and like, here's something that's early, even if it's like busted and flawed and not the most interesting, it probably is a good idea. And if they just flat out are telling you that this is going to be likely the future of like this side of the platform, like, all right, well, I should probably learn now. So just, you get the point. But yeah, that should be good. I'm trying to not be a perfectionist with all the learning. You can kind of see after I look at some of the study guides the AI made, where it's like, let's do a few iterations. Let's just focus on this guide or that guide. Really double check the documentation. Is this accurate? Like, some of the wording is like very weird, of like, huh? And like, yeah, it makes mistakes, it hallucinates, but like, man, the core idea, like, you're learning, and it's just kind of helping with some of the dryness of like reading documentation, and also putting it into the context where like, all right, this project that we've set up, like, how does that translate to all of this? So it's like it helps solidify it even more. So I think, anyway, I think the long-winded point of all of this, of the last 25 minutes of rambling, is that I think this will be a good direction to now go in. Is it the best? Is it going to work out? Should I do something else? I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Because I just need to move quickly. not waste time, not be indecisive. I don't know. I need to still be, what should I do? Like, I've done, I now know more. I can see more. I know what to kind of ask myself, ask others of. You can kind of read more between the lines of some things and like, all right, well, this will be my second attempt at this based on the various things I've talked with people, what I've kind of told them, like, hey, what I'm thinking of pursuing with like agentic payments, blah, blah, blah. And that seems to be a more promising direction that I think I'm going to learn a whole lot from. So, yeah, it's, one thing didn't work out. You pick yourself back up, take a look at the situation, and now we try something else. And if there's a little opportunity for something to, get in early on, just got to move quickly, even if it's messy, and take advantage of it. So that is what I'm doing. So should be good. I think it's going to be, it should be some good things to start adding to the portfolio. I mean, I've kind of thought about, so what's going to be the final result? Like, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of open to some things. Maybe a job in crypto, but kind of like maybe with AI stuff. With the agentic payments, whatever. I mean, I figure like just doing that alone, I'm going to learn so much that. But also, I mean, I've kind of looked at these category of forward deployed engineers. I think Palantir are the ones who kind of created it and popularized it. Like, I like the idea of it where it's like you're essentially like a full stack developer of sorts. You're like putting a whole bunch of pieces together into a solution. I can't believe I said that word. A solution, a product to somebody. Also, it's getting a little hot and the rain has stopped. Can we get... But yeah, I think what I learned working on Verijule, when it's like I put, you are the one who put all of the pieces together into one full thing, even if it wasn't the most interesting. I think I realized after of like, yeah, you know what? This was actually pretty fun. I kind of like doing this. I kind of like owning the whole stack, the whole ingredient list of things, and baking a nice pie. I'm not sure where that came from, but I was like, I kind of, there's like, do you do front end? Like, I don't even know if that's with AI now. Is front end still like a job? But like, do you do specialize in one thing? Are you a generalist? Are you this? But I was like, I kind of enjoyed doing all of it and putting it together into something cohesive. So maybe there's something promising with this. I've got a connection on LinkedIn who I think like a former Marine. He does like the FDE for some company. And he I've been in contact with him a little bit. It's been a good resource and told me like, yeah, man, if you get some projects under your belt, here's some places where you can reach out and take a look for any jobs or something. So we'll see. It's one of those I don't have a great answer of. I try to be, it's like, I don't know, it's like I'm trying to hit a moving goalpost with a cannonball, right? Round one, vaguely struck within the vicinity, but now it's like now you got less to work with. You're down one cannonball, now you're going to try again, and now it's kind of moving all over. I'm trying to find the wording. It's like I'm trying to be moving in a direction, but at the same time be open to various opportunities vaguely within that direction, if that makes sense. Not just like it only has to be this. We'll see. It's in the Colorado Springs here where I live, I mean, it's there's jobs, there's opportunities, but I wouldn't say it's like a crypto hub like San Francisco and New York. So really it would be likely like a remote thing that I would have to go for that. I mean, who knows? So, you know, you're competing with other people, a lot of other people. So that's where it kind of gets into like, how do you differentiate yourself and really stand out, where you're really going to have to go above and beyond with like the next thing you build, the next thing you like, the next skill set you start developing and like start putting together. And also, I mean, I'm not too sure of just fully working remote. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, I think some of the novelty of that has worn off, to be honest, where it kind of might be nice to actually go into a place. I'm not sure. In which case, I don't know. Well, there's a whole lot of military stuff here. Maybe some kind of like FDE, forward deployed engineering, with some like adjacent military company. I mean, I don't know. Where you go into a place. I mean, I'm not. It's one of those where like I'm not going to worry about that just yet. Right now, I'm just working on developing the necessary skills versus what kind of a position do I want to land. I mean, I really have the company, the LLC really is just kind of the umbrella for my projects at the moment at this point. If some kind of true product comes of it, great, but right now I got nothing, and I'm just trying to, you know, again, not use that as a source of not doing anything. Just keep moving forward, learning, building, adapting, and we'll take a look. That's where it's I'm trying to be a little bit like water. I had to borrow from Bruce Lee, where like I vaguely have a direction I'm going in, and like I'm open to some things, you know, several things, and I just don't want to be locked into one where it's like all you have is tunnel vision for one thing, and it's like you might miss out on another opportunity. So that's how it is. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Like a part of me just kind of misses going into a place where you have that work-life distinction, you know, and separation. That is one thing that I do miss about the library, and like going into a place, because once you're done, then you go home and you can maybe appreciate that more, versus I do the learning and stuff in one place. It's I mean, I think some of you like who've done it or are doing it, you think you kind of know what I mean. There's a point where like the novelty of it does kind of wear off, and it's like, I mean, one thing I've thought about is I would be quite open to some kind of a hybrid position where like generally you work remote, maybe you're at home at a coffee shop, but once in a while maybe they send you out somewhere. They're like, all right, get on a plane and go travel over here and go talk to these people and do something. Like I would actually be very, very open to that now. Like I think that like mix would be kind of cool. But we'll see. I don't need to worry about that just yet. So got a lot of learning ahead of me, but should be fun. I think should be interesting, should be good learning, very rewarding learning. I think at this point, you know, I think in general I have a better idea of my path, where, you know, it goes back to what I said, where now you got to really think of like what angle, now that you know more, now that you know what to look for, like you can gauge where your situation is at, where, you know, I'm not that young. I don't really have a lot of in-depth experience, like a little bit here and there. You don't have like a deep network of people. You know, you don't have like credentials for MIT. Not that I don't think it matters as much anymore. Like that's completely stopping you. But you get the point where, there's like a lot of things that you don't have that you're going to have to, you just kind of acknowledge that, yes, I'm not using this to stop me. It's kind of like when I started this whole path, at no point did I think, am I too old? Am I too old for coding? Is it over? Am I this? Am I that? I just figured, all right, I'm going to just focus on what I need to do. What do I need to go learn? What tool do I need to, like, how do I go use this? All right, AI is a thing. How do I start using this and that? At no point was it, am I too old? It was just, what do I have to go do? But, I think that's one thing that definitely helped, probably for like the progress that I have made, was that at no point have I been focused on, am I this? Am I that? Can I this? It's just, all right, what do I need to go learn? Where can I go learn it? Just here's the tool. Why don't I just, pay for my Cursor subscription and start using it? I can ask the AI how to use the AI, just stuff like that. But, I can acknowledge also the situation I'm in, and I'm not oblivious to like where I'm at and like what I'm going to have to overcome. And so it just becomes this, you've got to really, make your moves in a very intelligent way, where it's like, the thing that I go do, what's going to hopefully be the payoff of this? What's going to be the return, the ROI, the return on the investment? So I think, I don't really know where I was going with that, but I think you get what I mean, that it's, I think I know, you look at, I'm going to have to really lean pretty heavily on AI, but also do it in a smart way where you're not just putting out slop, right? Oh, just go make a thing. Really, really going in pretty heavy with AI to, it's like to make stuff, to refine it, to use it to learn, to like break down concepts for you from the thing you learned, things like that. And so, you really, where it's not going to be, I'm going to become the best, knower of like this and that programming language. Like very likely, probably not. And that's fine. It's like, I will know just enough where you can like look at some code and like have a good idea of what it's doing, or be able to figure out what it's doing. But I'm not going to be like the best at this or that or this. And I think that's probably okay. Let me just, getting a little too loud here. I think it's one of those, I think it's a little too late and maybe pointless to be, I'm going to become an expert on this or that, or learn some kind of in-depth math for this or that. I think it's just, just embrace that, it took a bit, but I really took well to using AI and like finding a way that works for me, of being able to like do stuff quickly, try stuff out, but also make myself study guides. Just really, hey, everything we just did, please stop and now explain this to me. But could I go and like write stuff necessarily by hand? I mean, well, that'd be a little tough, but maybe it doesn't matter with the way things are going, and that will do me well. I know that there's like I've seen a lot of different opinions of it, like, oh, use AI. There's like the different sides to AI, where it's like, just go all in, man. Just, this is the future, the blah, blah, blah. And, I think the danger there is that like you can turn into just making slop, where you're just making stuff and you don't really know exactly how it works and what it's doing. But then there's the other side where people, and I understand, they learn things the old-fashioned way, the hard way, and they put a lot of work into understanding it. And now you just have this tool that just allows, you can sit in your room drinking Bacardi Gold and eating pizza and just like make prompts with AI and accomplish like incredible stuff, where it's like people put in all this learning into languages and frameworks and this and that, and now the AI learned from it, and now you can just go use it with like a few prompts like it's nothing. I understand that side where people who put in that work are really challenged and have a hard time like dealing with like the break in their identity that causes. But again, it's for me, if you're starting late and you're like 40 years old and you're getting something that you don't have as much experience in, and here is this incredibly powerful tool that allows you to like maybe leapfrog some of this stuff. Just enough that you have an idea of how things work, but acknowledge that, what? Maybe it's okay if I'm not an expert. And it's just like you get very good at using these tools to like put stuff together. And maybe that's okay. And maybe that's the specialty, if you will. That's the direction, is you just acknowledge, here is this thing that's, I don't know, I still see people like where they're almost smug about it, of like, oh, well, it's been 6 months and it still hasn't taken my job. And it's like, here's these very smart people that I can appreciate the work that they've done into their skills, but there is it's like, you see, people can be very smart in one thing, and I feel like a little too oblivious in other things. So like, hey man, well, at the rate that things are progressing, like, yeah, maybe right now, okay, some of it's mediocre code and this and that, and it makes code that's not pleasant to read. Like, if that's all am I crazy where it's like, if that's all you're basing it off of, you miss the fact of like, take a look at how much it's progressed from where it was a few years ago till now. And so the thing where you're just like, people will cope with how, oh, well, it's sort of useful here and there, but it still doesn't blah, 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 blah. And so I'm just, like, they'll have an almost smug, like, I don't know. I just feel like, man, well, to each their own, I suppose. To each their own, but at this point, I am a true believer. What can I say? And maybe it's good. Maybe it's good that all those years ago when I thought I'll sit down and learn the Unity game engine in C#, or I'll learn Android app development in Java. Maybe it's good that I was so lazy back then and didn't do it, because if I hadn't done, if I, followed through back then and put in the work and really built up the skill sets, would I be now sitting here talking to you about how threatened I was by AI coming along? But I put in all that work and formed an identity around how hard, I think I've heard the term sweat equity. I put in the work to develop those skills, and now here's this tool that's making some of that not as, it's more accessible for a lot less work for other people, right? Would I be deeply threatened by it now? Possibly, very likely. I mean, who knows? But maybe in a way, it's good that I had just, lazy enough where I never really tried, where like I got put off by learning the languages, the syntax, where it's like I learned enough here and there where I knew what, like, obviously, like, programming languages were, how they worked, but never, I was like too lazy to really go in depth and really stick to any of it. But where now it's like, oh, I love this tool. Like, you do the boring syntax stuff, I will just focus ultimately on what it does. And I think that's what I realized lately, is what I like is, yeah, I mean, there's people who, coding was like a fun hobby and a thing for them. And now it's like, oh, here's AI, which completely kind of destroys that. And they might go back to coding manually, but I think that's For a personal hobby, sure, but I think on a professional level, man, I don't think that's a thing that's going to last that long with how things are moving quickly. But for me, I'm like, well, you know what I like? What is the thing that the code does at the end of the day? For me, I can't get that excited about syntax and optimal this, and you came up with some clever function or this or that or algorithm. Like, I mean, to some extent, yeah, but for me, it's like, what is the thing at the end of the day that it's doing? That's what I'm more interested in. You know, I'm interested in learning just enough that I can take a look at something and figure it out, or like know what this or that part is doing. But really, at the end of the day, I realize, man, I kind of don't care. And maybe that was a part of it, is like, I'm interested in what it does at the end of the day, not learning the syntax and the nuance of it. So again, it's one of those things where I can acknowledge the effects that it has, people's reaction, you know, the implications of certain work, of a lot of work. But for me personally, on a personal level, I love it. And I found a way that I like using it that has helped me a lot, and I think is really going to help a lot. And I think I keep saying I think. Is that the new Is that the and I think I can't not say I think now. I've got to just lean into it, you know? Just really lean into it, and we'll see. Again, I think it's better than not being sure, creating friction. You got to work hard and just move fast, man. But not so fast enough that you're not learning and understanding along the way. So that's I think, really leaning heavily into AI, even more so. But in a good way, in a productive way, is going to be another aspect. Yeah, the whole, I wrote the most beautiful comments and this and that and the most beautiful code, and really these days it's, you know, it has occurred to me, is anyone going to read it? No. Nobody cares. People will just run your thing through AI anyway. So, all right, who cares? You know, here's the README for a project. You know, some recruiter will likely spend about, I think I've seen the statistic where it's something like 7 seconds or something, you know, let's say at most a minute. You wrote the most in-depth this and that, and is anyone and some poetic language and explanations and whatever, and really, is anybody going to read it? No, they're going to skim it. They're going to have some AI read through it, and that's what you're going to get out of your beautifully written poetic code and this and that. So it's just, man, I'm too old for that, you know? Like, it's like, what, you know, it goes back to what I said, where it's like the thing that you do, what's the return that you're going to get on it? You know, there's a place to, like, intelligently stop, maybe put some of that personal taste into it so it doesn't look a little too janky, too AI, but really there's a point where it's like I'm putting in a lot of work for something nobody will care about, you know? That's where it's suddenly like, oof, the opportunity cost of something, and just like the time invested in your return, like, yeah, nobody's gonna care that much. So that's another aspect that ties back to what I said of just having to be really smart now, going in with this second attempt with things, not holding on to any kind of a purist whatever idea, and like, no, I will do all this by hand, I will this, I will that. You can go over and manually review stuff, other stuff. I mean, I'm not sure how much it really matters, but yeah, it's the winds of change are blowing, and it's very easy to see now where things are going, right? So just embrace it, lean in, but watch the slop. And I think that will be that's going to be the direction. Man, I don't even know what I talked about for a whole hour, for 50 minutes. Really, you didn't think it was going to be easy, did you? The golden age is kind of over for finding these jobs. I mean, I think it probably happened a little earlier with like standard web development, whatever, and it later then happened with crypto. The age of just, you kind of learn a language, write, make some stuff, maybe go to a hackathon, and you could get these jobs. They were people were being hired left and right. Well, that is now over. And it's just adapt or be stubborn or just quit. And again, I've come too far to give up. And there's nothing to go back to, even though a part of me wishes I could. There is a price to pay for everything. Just to go back a little bit to nostalgia, things like this, you do lose something in the process. You don't give something up without, you don't gain something without giving something up. And if you want to gain something, you do have to give something up. I have a lot of very vivid memories of the old days, of my time at the library, of being with my parents, of living in Denver, that even though I've moved on, it's a part of you can't let go, and maybe never will, because for whatever I complained about, whatever unhappiness I had, and blah blah, not to be melodramatic about it, I think if you spend a large portion of your life in a place, your parents' house, at this organization, in this area, that does, especially during your younger years, more formative years, what have you, it does become a part of your life. And, it was like a sense of home and belonging, even if you had your things that you were unhappy about. But it also was a stifling thing. So there's where like you maxed out on what you could get out of it. And to try to reach for something more, for something new, for some sort of new possibility, you would have to give up that comfort, that safety, those golden handcuffs, whatever. And, you really do, you see the trade-offs now. There's a small part, a very small part, don't mean anything by it, but I think some of you kind of understand that there's a small part where, like, man, I would totally go back to just living with my parents, working at the library with a nice set schedule, go in, go out, come home, live in the same area, follow the same routine, come home and cope with whatever, video games, watching YouTube, whatever it is, and just any kind of hopeful future would be this carrot on a stick you would keep in your mind. But didn't have to face the reality of what that what that would actually entail of reaching for. But a small part where like I can now recognize, yeah, the comforts that you had, but yeah, it is what it is. I think just what I don't know, what I'm kind of sad about, if you will, or maybe a part of me fears, is that sense of like, yeah, for whatever miserable the routine was, that sense of comfort and vague definition of home that provided, that's maybe that's the last time I will ever feel that, where it's like that delusion and bubble that you were in provided you a nice sense of your little cage that you were in, provided you a sense of comfort that, and a place of belonging that once you lose, that, well, you may not get that back likely ever again. It's just a lot of factors, that it's like you spent a large part of your life there. You can't, I don't think you just get over that in a year and a half. I've had to really stop and remind myself, this has only been about a year and a half in this thing. And somehow feels a lot longer than that. And yeah, let me just slightly adjust this because I feel weird like having those people in the shot. But yeah, it feels like somehow much longer than a year and a half, where it's like so much stuff happened. Like I spent decades where it's like barely much changed, and all of a sudden in like a year and a half, it's like decades of happenings in a year and a half. Like, it's pretty crazy. But man, while I can certainly move on and progress and learn and grow, and you over time you could kind of get used to other things, but I think there's just a certain part that I'm not sure it will probably just be permanently imprinted. And it is what it is, it's you don't get something without giving something up. I maxed out that box I was in, and I knew, like, man, this is kind of it. Like, this is kind of it. Nothing, I'm not really gonna do much better than this at this point. And so it means having to step away from comforts, routine, and try something new. It was scary, exciting, and a lot of the novelty is worn off, and it's now I can see, well, there were some things that I took for granted, didn't I? But too late now. Certainly doesn't matter, but you start to see the grass is not always greener on the other side. I mean, one of the things I did early on when I moved cities was I went to this some kind of a church men's group, brotherhood. I'm in a new city, try to make new connections, new network, go out there, like, meet new people. And you know what I did the whole day, or the whole evening? I served food to the regulars and washed dishes, while the regulars just chatted with each other, like, barely kind of acknowledged me at all. Like, oh, okay then. Left Never went back, never gonna go back. And that really told me everything I needed to know. It's, I think at this point I'm just embracing, I've talked about this where the aspect of me that haunted me for a long time is just something that I got in touch with in high school, where I could get along with all the different groups of people, with all the different crowds, the cliques, whatever. You can go everywhere, get along with everyone, but never really belong anywhere. Here and there, you would have just like a small little taste of like belonging and home, whatever. I mean, for me, like the Alex, who passed away at this point, that's what, 4 years ago? That was one of those, like a longtime friend that you make, and it was always a reminder of the old days, and like one of the few connections I really made that, man, those are very hard to make. And I think especially as you get older, you're older, other people are older, people got their lives, and it's, I don't know, I think just a lot of human nature too. But it was funny where when I tried to go to that Greek Orthodox church for over a year, like, all right, no, I'm going to go back. I need to get out of the house. I need to go out there, be regular. Just, not just go once and be sad that nobody really paid attention to me during coffee hour. I'll go back. I will, and I get to know people, got to know some people, but at the end of all of that, what happened? Oh, are you new here? Oh no, I've like been coming for like a year. Okay. At the end of all of that, the best that you could do was, well, you form a couple of vague connections, and for the most part, you're kind of just background noise. And I could see with this group, like, yeah, I'm not repeating that mistake again. I need to keep going back and prove myself. It's like, no, there's nothing. You kind of know very quickly, right? If you've got any connections with people, you don't need to go back for months and years and try to prove yourself in this or that. Like, no, it's okay. We don't need to waste energy on this again. And it is what it is. It's sad. I wish that, where are your people? Where is your group? Hell, probably nowhere. And I don't need to be sad about it. I can just acknowledge that this seems to be how I operate better. And, it doesn't mean that you don't go out and try to meet people, but you go out there, you try to meet people, make connections, but don't be so overly, I don't think being overly set on, I need to form friends, I need to this, like, no, I can go chit chat and then walk away and not be sad about it, and the moments here and there where you talk to somebody and okay, there's probably like got something a little bit more to talk about, you stay in touch with, and that's a-okay. So, but yeah, the whole, I'm gonna move cities, and I tried to go to some of these church groups and meetings and this and that and outing and picnic and whatever, and it's all the same thing where it's conversations about nothing. People just kind of talk at you. If you even dare open up a little bit and talk about anything, you can just see the instant like turn off where like people don't care about what you're talking about, and it's just okay. It's okay. So yeah, I was on a really big nostalgia kick there around that last video. I was like driving back to Denver constantly, Just like so desperate to, like, I would go back to the old neighborhood of parks and I walk around and go sit on these benches and under these trees that I used to. Just like want to feel something. And it's just, at most, you've got this vague memory of the past, right? That sense of familiarity, the word, and comfort of certain ignorance of the past that you were in. You know, now the bliss and the ignorance is gone forever. And it's just this shell of a memory that you've got left, but also something that you will probably never be able to let go of either. Yeah. But I don't know, maybe it was the last struggles and having to acknowledge that that phase of life had come to an end and was now gone, and you just needed to snap out of it. Where it's like, even like, man, Denver has declined, but even then it's just, there's too much of your life and too many memories happened in a place that no matter what, it's like you can't, a part of you, a small part, will never be able to let go. But anyway, the only thing that matters is to move forward. That's the only way out. If there is a way out, if there is or was any hope to any of this, all right, I need to try something else, because clearly I've maxed out where I'm at. You do your best and you go try something. But when it's clear that, yeah, something's not working or it failed, take a step back, assess the situation, and now try again, and now move forward. There is truly no way out but through, if there is a way out. You know, you just either get turned into a diamond by the pressure or get crushed by it. Yeah. Anyway, I think that I have talked for enough. I got a good direction. I've got my reasoning for it. We'll take a look. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.